On this episode of Three Black Guys with the Mic, journalist, author, and host of the new podcast, The Toure Show. Toure is with us to break down hip-hop, politics, and the black community. It starts right now on this episode of Three Black Guys with the Mic.
First of all, let me tell you something. Lamont is just full of
Sometimes my mama said, when you don't have nothing nice to say, you should be quiet.
People say that Stephen A. is a coon. You agree with that? Everybody got quiet on that one, okay? Go ahead.
Rudy Giuliani practices voodoo. So he put a voodoo hex on my girl, Hillary, and that's why she got woozy. And the Secret Service had to prop her up and put her in the van.
Take us to a break, my dude.
It was voodoo, son.
I don't know about that voodoo.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Three Black Guys with a Mic. It's Black History Month, and this month we want to highlight those who have achieved in black history. We salute Albert King, NBA basketball great and Wendy's franchise owner. Albert King has played for the Washington Bullets, San Antonio Spurs, and the Philadelphia 76ers. In 1981, Albert King was picked 10th overall in the first round to the New Jersey Nets. But Albert didn't stop at basketball. Albert continues to score big in the business world with Wendy's. That's right. Albert King is one of the only African-American men to own a Wendy's franchise. Name and statistics aside, no one gave Albert any restaurants. He earned them, owning 3 Wendy's full-service restaurants in the New Jersey area. For Black History Month, we salute Albert King, NBA basketball legend and Wendy's franchise owner. Now, let's start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us for another episode of Three Black Guys with the Mic. Spud is here, Lamont is here, I am here, Maynard is here, and my man Toure is here, American journalist, TV host, podcaster. If you don't know Toure, then you have been living under a rock for a very long time. Toure, how are you, my friend? Thank you so very much for joining us.
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Man, thank you. Let's start with the Super Bowl. I know that you were, happy that Philly won. But I gotta ask because you.
It's not that I'm happy that Philly won. I'm happy that the Patriots lost.
Got it. Okay, good. Let's start with "I Will Die for You," and let's start with the book and Justin Timberlake's performance and his tribute to Prince and your thoughts.
I mean, the Prince part I was nervous about, as others had, made the big point that he was really not into holograms.
Right.
I thought what actually happened in that moment of Justin's performance was tasteful and appropriate. It wasn't really a hologram. It was just his image beamed onto a cloth, which we've been doing since the beginning of the film era. It wasn't some next technology like when you had Tupac appearing, as a hologram and doing and saying things he never did during his life at South by Southwest. It wasn't that. So I wasn't mad at that part. I found most of Justin's performance fairly boring, and I found myself just sort of like it was just very safe, and I found myself very much like Team Janet, like arms crossed, like no. It's like and he could have crushed it, and Team Janet would still be like no, but he didn't crush it, and I think most media critics have said that, and it really highlights how Janet got screwed out of that moment, and it changed her career. And, it feels like it's not right, the amount that she has paid, especially when he was standing right there with her through that. And he's
the one that grabbed the titty. He grabbed the titty.
Whoa, Maynard. Hey.
He didn't grab the titty?
No, we don't use that kind of
Yeah, but the sad part about it is that Justin Timberlake never owned up to it. He never reached, because I would have thought that Justin Timberlake should have said, I'm not doing this unless Janet can come out. If she says yes, then I'm down. But I got to be able to, right this wrong. And that's what I think. I think he should have done that.
I think being a pop star at that level is partly like running a presidential campaign that never really ends. You're constantly giving speeches, giving your policy points, kissing babies, shaking hands, reaching out to get new endorsements. You're just constantly trying to create this story around yourself that you're the shit, and everybody should listen to you. And you may or may not see Justin's numbers tanking, but there is a significant portion of what could be his audience that is angry with him because they're Team Janet. And at this point, he really should be reaching out to Janet. If she's not going to put her on stage at the Super Bowl, which is not possible, Super Bowl would not accept her at all. He should be reaching out to her, some sort of olive branch, to where he's, making up with her and doing a song with her, hitting her with a public apology, just to mollify. I mean, this is a guy whose solo career has been about white guy working in modern black music, right? He's been working with black music idioms and black super producers. So he clearly wants the pop audience and the urban audience. And a lot of the urban audience is really upset with him because of the Janet thing. I just wouldn't want that large constituency mad at me if I was trying to be a pop star who was trying to have the urban audience too. I feel like he really should be doing something to reach out to Janet. I can't think of another major pop star who has another constituency like furious with him over a long period of time. Like that's just not normal.
So Toure, let's go back a little bit, since you kind of gave a lot of credence to what I told the other two black guys, is that our community, we're still mad at Justin because of Janet, and he could have went out there and Jesus could have came down with his 12 disciples and said that I'm going to bless his performance, and Team Janet Jackson would not have, have praised the performance. So that's it. But let's go back.
Are you talking about black Jesus or white Jesus?
No. This would be like a super melanated Jesus. So we got to go with the black Jesus. Wow. You know what I mean? So
super melanated.
If black Jesus came down and blessed him, we would be all right. Now you're official. We can't front on black Jesus.
Again, I don't know. Again, I'm of the thought of, I think he did do a pretty good job. Were there a lot of things he could have done better? Absolutely. That's cool. But here's my question to you. And first, I want to say that I was a super duper fan of the TV show that you had on Fuse some years back. It was called the Hip Hop Shop, right?
Thank you.
I have a little side, history, because my wife was in the same building at WeTV at the time. So there were times I would kind of peek in and be able to see some of the things. But my question to you is, 2018, if you were still doing that show, what would be your advice to Cardi B?
What would be my advice to Cardi B?
Yep, of where Cardi B is right now. Because I
love Cardi B.
Exactly. So where's Cardi B to go next? Because she missed an opportunity. She should have been.
Drop the album. You mean she should have done the Super Bowl? Is that what you getting at?
No. I'm just saying, like, we have this thing. There are some people on this podcast that are not Cardi B fans. So maybe I should say to win over the people who haven't been won over already about Cardi B. What does she need to do now?
I mean, Cardi B needs to just keep living her life. She's moving toward her album. I mean, just guessing, I would imagine she'll drop it in the summer, and try to do like the album of the summer type thing. But I mean, like, she's a special sort of thing. I didn't really pay attention to her last summer. And somehow the song came into my radar in the last like couple of months. And I was like, yeah, that song is all right. And then like the third time I listened to it, I was like, I need to hear that like 20 more times in a row. And like, it's beyond the music. I like her, and she is a superstar. She has it. Like, she's bigger than like some people you like their music, and some people you like them. And she's like that. And she's going to be here for a long time, dropping music, maybe acting, I don't know what, just doing like, live performance shit. Like, she's a star.
I'm sorry, guys. I thought that Toure was going to be a good interview. He came on here with this bullshit.
And you know what? Listen, Toure, I've been telling them that Cardi B is a star for years.
Well, we have not seen, correct me if I'm wrong, we have not seen a real Latina-flavored national superstar come out of hip-hop, right? We've seen some Latino superstars. We've seen some Latinas blow up in Hollywood, but not in, have we seen that in hip-hop before?
No.
I can't think of any. And she really reminds me of like...
The closest is Lisa and the Coke Jam.
Oh, yo, Lisa and the Coke Jam was dope.
I loved Lisa.
Lisa was dope, yo.
I loved them.
Lost in Emotion, head to toe.
Her.
All of that.
And I mean, Cardi gives you all sorts of Latina Bronx flavor. I mean, like she's so thorough because she's coming from this Bronx Latina background, which is dope. And she was doing something on the street. She said she was a blood. I haven't heard substantiation on that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Plus, we all know she was in the club stripping, so she's got that shit. Plus, she's funny as hell. I mean, a lot of her blow up is jumping on videos on Instagram. And she's just catching people on the gram based on personality. How many people could do like 100 hours of video and have people go, I really like his personality. I like her personality. Not that many. And the more Cardi we see, the more we like her and think she's funny and raps. I mean, yo, I listen to that Bodak Yellow like 5 times a day, son. That shit is hot to death. Are you kidding?
Toure.
If you can't feel that shit, I need to check your hip hop card. It might be expired.
Toure, check his hip hop card. Thank you. Finally.
I'm just saying. You might need to check
somebody
the
has
expiration
come on
date.
here and checked their hip hop date.
Everybody in this conversation is over 40, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, when you're under 40, when you're under 35, when you're under 25, you have veto power. You can brick whatever the fuck you want. When you're over 40 and you don't like the record that everybody else in hip hop likes, you need to look in the mirror and say, has the person died?
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in.
I'm just saying, man.
Hold on, Toure. So I got one more question for you. We also got to give you props on the Rolling Stone article you did on Migos, right?
Thank you.
So
thank you.
I do also agree that, you know, those guys are the new modern day rock stars. You know what I mean? Because
Jesus.
Come on, let me get this out. Because I did not agree with. I don't agree with the Cardi B, and I'm looking at my wallet for my black card because I might have to turn it in. But I'm down with the Migos thing. I think Migos is a different kind of superstar. All the things that he said about Cardi, I think are going to happen to Migos. I'm not on the Cardi train. I mean, like I saw it go by, but I'm just.
I mean, you're a misogynist still. That's okay, Lamont. We understand.
I mean, you know, part of what we as 40-somethings are dealing with is that the culture has changed, right? The style of emceeing is different. I mean, I don't think Cardi is really that different than Nicki and Lil' Kim and some others. I just like her flavor. But on the guy's side, it has changed a lot. The way the Migos rhyme is totally different than the way that we were used to, the shit that we prize with Nas and Jay and Eminem and whatever. Like, it's different. So we have to adjust to that. I don't want to be the guy who's like, you know, back in my day, you know, we rhymed the whole verse, man. Y'all ain't shit, man. With your, with your triplets ain't shit. I don't want to be that. You know what I mean? I try to appreciate the new music without saying, is this better than Illmatic? Is this better than Only Built for Cuban Links? And I love that shit. And nothing will take that away. Outkast, Ice Cube, KRS. I love that shit. And I always will. And I also appreciate this new shit.
Man, I advocated for you to come on this show, man. And you just pushed me all in the face. I'm the 1984 rapper. I'm the,
He can't get out of the 1982
but the whole
era.
But the whole thing about hip hop has always been development, right? The culture moves forward, right? We always want what's next, what's new. Don't bite my rhymes, don't bite my style. We're always moving forward and trying to be futuristic. That's what it was always about. And we saw it move from a routine era, which was lyrically very simplistic in retrospect, to something a little more complex with Run DMC and LL, to something much more complex with Rakim and those who came after him, and even more complex with the Jay-Z's, the Eminems, the Nas's, etc. I think we reached maximum complexity and maximum density in terms of the amount of words you could get in a verse. So the only way it could go was down. It had to get more, I don't want to say dumbed down, but it's not as complex as it used to be. And I fully respect that. I'm just choosing to accept this as, you know, as music that I like, even as I understand this is not as complex as it was in the previous generation.
You know, one of the things I started to really kind of listen to and kind of contemplate, and I wonder what your feelings are on this, is I feel like, you know, like when Fab Five Freddy came and was introducing another community to hip hop that was this underground thing, there was this huge kind of punk rock fusion influence but I feel like what's happening now with the Migos and with some of these other guys, that we actually are returning, Tyler, the Creator, or whoever the case may be, we're returning to this, you know, oddly enough, not that it's necessarily connected, but we're returning to a punk rock kind of mashup, if you will.
I mean, you see that in some places, sure, like Tyler, the Creator, and some places it gets very pop, like, you know, Migos and Cardi, and Drake, you know, and Nicki. You know, it's a little of both. I mean, you know, I'm thrilled that Jay Electronica is on tour right now. I think he's one of the greatest MCs of his generation. And I'm still out here hoping that an album will come out.
Right. Because we're like 20 years in the making on a Jay Electronica.
I know, but it's got to come out, right?
Hopefully it will. Let me get into, you know, I guess a little bit about you as a journalist as well as an author. And my first question is which one do you like more? Do you like being a journalist more, or do you like being an author more?
I mean, I can't call it between those two. You know, being a journalist, especially when you get to do, you know, the big stories, the number one rap group, you know, being covered in Rolling Stone, or the number one solo rapper being covered on the cover of Rolling Stone, like, that's very exciting.
Right.
You know, you feel like the community is like, what's going on with Jay-Z now, or what's going on with Migos now, and you get to like ask them the questions and find out what's going on and tell the people, like, you know, and I love doing those sort of dispatches. You know, a book is a much longer imagined project, but it's super exciting to, you know, dream of something and work on it day after day for a couple of years and then finally make it happen. You know, I mean, the world of books for me at this point is, you know, like a field that's like, there's a lot of joy. I did 5 books. I'm working on 2 more. I'm very proud of all that. But I got 3 books that I wrote that will never be published. And there's a tremendous amount of pain in that, because each book takes a couple of years.
Right.
So that's like 6+ years out of my life that y'all will never see, which is like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
And how difficult,
so
I mean,
you
it's
know,
got to be real pain when you sit down with the KRS-One and you go through, you know, his book, and you got all these exciting stories, and this book never, you know, hits the light of day.
Yeah, that book is hot. That book is hot like fish grease, and I'm very sorry that y'all are not getting to see it, because his life story is way more complicated than we know. He was in multiple shelters. I mean, we talk about him becoming homeless. He became homeless voluntarily. Right. And that was not the first time that he left home. He left home repeatedly. He had a go bag ready at all times, but it was like a toothbrush, a do-rag, and a physics book. Like right. That's who he was at 16. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we had this whole bit about, you know, like eating out of the trash can and how to do it. Like, we talked about, like, So this section, like, if you were actually homeless, you could open this page and be like, here's the detailed summary of how to eat. And like, he taught me, like, if something has mold on it, only the part that you can see the mold is bad. The rest of it you can eat just fine.
I can eat that.
And the average person
Most
is thinking like
middle-class people would never do that. But that,
Right.
but he lived that. You know what I mean? Just the story of how he got from being homeless to the shelter, which he did not know that shelters existed. He's 16 years old. He was sleeping in the park in Brooklyn for like 6 months. And he's meditating at 16. And he says,
at a time when nobody's even thinking what meditation is. I mean, at 16, I'm sure
nobody was meditating.
Nobody was meditating. Unless you were literally had to be from Eastern philosophy, if you were meditating.
In the 80s, it was not hot. There were no apps to help you meditate. It was not a thing people talked about. He was meditating in the park, and a vision came to him of him crossing a bridge. So he just got up and started walking and walked across the Brooklyn Bridge. And then for some reason he decided, okay, wherever I come to a red light, I'll turn right. And when I come to a green light, I'll turn left or something like that. And so he does that, and it leads him to a shelter. And he finds his way to like a group of men standing there. And then he's like, what are you guys doing? And like, we're waiting for food and a shelter. And then like, what is a shelter? And then like, bam, that's how he gets into the shelter system. But Scott LaRock was not at that shelter. He's at another shelter because Chris was in several shelters before he found Scott and started moving forward with his career.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. I mean, I listened to Combat Jack, may he rest in peace, but I listened to D Nice's story. And he goes into, a little bit about, Scott LaRock and KRS-One and how they met. And it's really, that whole dynamics can be a movie, within itself. It's a
100%,
very
100%.
powerful. So
and
when you cross that bridge, why don't the movie, why does the book come out? Is it creative differences? Is it publishing? Is it, where does the hurdle come?
I would say that I have said enough.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that. Good. So Lamont is one of his greatest philosophies on this podcast is that the white man's ice is colder. Now you might hear him say that a couple of times on this podcast. I'm using that for a reason because you have been you've hosted several television shows. You've been on CNN, MSNBC, so forth and so on. And it seems as if when you're and you're pretty outspoken, it seems as if when you're outspoken, when you're on these major networks, then you're criticized. But when your white counterparts are outspoken, they're not as criticized. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I really have no idea what you're talking about with that dichotomy. I mean, when I was at MSNBC, my sense was we are people on the political left who are being attacked by people on the political right. And we are trying to deal with them attacking us. I mean, and it felt like trying to do your job while people are shooting at you. It felt like that. I didn't see it as a racial thing, and I recall, I know Martin Bashir is brown, but he's not black. He got killed, something he said, and then, Melissa Harris Perry had a problem, but then somebody tweeted something crazy. I know that they were white and they got dumped. I didn't look at it as black-white. I looked at it as the political right, and I don't mean elected officials, although to some extent them, loves to feign outrage. They love fake outrage. and they pretend they are more. I mean, they're floppers, like they're freaking European soccer players, and they are super furious that something was said when they're really not. And sometimes that can put a lot of pressure on people.
So, what was it like working with SE? Because I don't like her. I don't like that.
SE Cup.
I do not.
I'll say this, that she is an extraordinary broadcaster. That, in terms of sitting there with somebody else, I knew that if the prompter goes dead, me and her could flip it and rock the rest of the show regardless. And if I turned to her surprised and said something, she would be immediately able to catch it and flow with it. And Crystal developed into an extraordinary broadcaster, but she was not on day one. She was green, and she had to learn. And I could tell from day one what, if everything goes to shit, Essie will be able to flow with it. And now I agree with none of her politics. And,
right.
I was clear about that, and she was clear about that back. But, just as a person who could go out there and present and, make her points in a provocative way and make jokes and just be a compelling, interesting person on the stage in front of the camera. Oh, 100%. I mean, in terms of that stuff, we were very fortunate to have her for the time we did.
So you've been in this space that's straddled a bunch of lines from pop culture, a hip hop icon in the journalism side and bringing us insights into what's going on, politics, obviously, through some additional work. And I've always found it surprising to see what you do and how you come across on television and how you move in certain spaces, and then find out really underneath there's this radical cat that's really is going to say something. How have you been able to how have you been able to get them to forget that you might say some wild shit, and then they get you on TV and then you say some wild shit?
Well, I mean, they want that. Right? I mean,
right.
That's not why I do it, but they want that. They don't want boring segments. They want somebody who's going to shake it up and say some shit and say something that's going to surprise people. And if people are out there, listen to this and they get a couple of TV appearances and they want more in the cable news space. They want to be somebody who's feeding the beast, as they say. Being safe won't get you on more. Being out there, and I don't want you to go all the way to Ann Coulter wild, but being out there gets you more attention. And but for me, I felt a tremendous responsibility. I felt a responsibility to my community and my culture to say what I really felt. I felt very tangibly, I am here because of Max Robinson and Carol Simpson and other people like that. And I can see my roots and my ancestors. So I got to keep it real. I got to say, what the community needs said. I can't shy away, and I'm like, what are you scared of? And so when not that many people were talking about Khalif Browder, or Rakia Boyd, excuse me, I was talking about them. I remember, who was the sister who got shot in Michigan through the screen door? She was
in Dearborn Heights?
Yeah, in Dearborn Heights.
Yeah. Who was that? Which one was that? Because Rakia Boyd was the 7-year-old. Who was the sister who got killed in Michigan and he got sent away?
Ooh, I don't remember that. I know it was in Dearborn.
It was in Dearborn, outside of Detroit. It was super late. She knocked on somebody's door because she had hit poles. She was disoriented, and the guy pulled out a shotgun through the screen door.
Renisha McBride.
Shot her dead.
Renisha McBride.
Renisha McBride. Say her name. Thank you. And the day of her funeral, my executive producer was out in the hospital. And I was like, I'm talking about her today. And they were like, no, please don't. It sounds very sensitive and scary, and we don't want to piss anybody off. And I'm like, yo, I have to. Like, what is the point of me being here if I'm not shedding a light on the important stories, that I know about, that I care about? I saw myself somewhat as a representative of the community. Not that I have to say everything the community would want me to say, not that I speak for the community, but I do have to have some responsibility to the things we care about and the things that we need said. Otherwise, why am I there?
And what is the fear of that? And I think that's what's going to my point earlier in regards to, it feels as if black journalists don't get the freedom, and not that white journalists actually go there, but it seems like, there are certain narratives that black journalists need to say in the, Renisha McBride case, Jamel Hill, and is it just corporate America doesn't want to turn off advertisers? They don't want for, I would say, their core base to run away, or what is the fear in actually you going on and saying this is a story that needs to be told?
I think that I think certain people are scared of certain things. I am not in this critiquing other black media folks. Mm-hmm. I am not saying black media is not doing X, Y, or Z. I'm just saying what I had to deal with in that situation where I had a white person saying, let's not discuss that. I think that person was afraid of just messing up. Just what if we say something that pisses off somebody somewhere? And certain people in the industry are going to be more risk averse. Why risk saying something that pisses everybody off and creates a firestorm?
Certainly they don't work. Certainly they don't work at H&M.
Right. And I felt the responsibility to make those points and to raise those issues and to say things that I felt needed to be said. And I would get the response that I needed, especially from what I sort of thought of in my mind as like aunties, which are like people who are black women who are like 10, 15, 20, 25 years older than me, who either I know like to email me or to tweet at me, or I see them on a plane or whatever in the airport, and they're like, you're doing the right thing. Keep it going. You're making me proud that you're out there. And then I'm like, if I'm hitting them and they remember, who's the nurse who played a nurse in the 60s? Was it Lena Horne? Not Lena Horne.
No, Diana Carroll.
Diane Carroll. Like the people who like remember back that far when she was, what was her name?
Julia. Julia.
Yes, Julia. And my mom used to talk about, like we would call, ooh, black person on TV. Julia's on TV. Oh my God.
Right, right. Black on TV.
And people who remember that. So being black really matters to them on TV. And if they're like, yo, you're doing your thing, you're making us proud, I'm like, yes, I'm doing the right. Because thankfully, the current generation of television viewers, Gen Xers like us and millennials, we're spoiled as a motherfucker. This is the golden age of black television. This is the greatest moment in black television history. We got more shows about the black experience that we can respect. We got more black creators who are doing things that really tell our stories in complex and interesting and valuable ways. This is incredible. I mean,
Toure, but how do we get them to watch that and not watch Love and Hip Hop? Because it seems as if they're migrating more towards the negative black narrative than they are on the positive black narrative.
Well, I mean, Love and Hip Hop does very well, but a lot of the shows I'm thinking about do well as well. But, Scandal, Grey's Anatomy, whatever. But I mean, like, I don't fault people for watching Love and Hip Hop. I mean, it's the boob tube. It's supposed to be a respite from the world. And I don't see, maybe you see this, I don't see people watching Love and Hip Hop and replicating that. I see people watching Love and Hip Hop as they watch Jersey Shore and other trash, Real Housewives, other trash TV shows, and looking down on them. and
Do
say
you
that's
think
how
that
you
Mona
don't
Scott
behave.
is the devil? Do you
Mona
think that
Scott's the
Mona
devil.
Scott is the devil?
Whoa,
for loving him?
Spud.
I'm just
No,
curious.
no.
I'm just asking
No.
Toure's opinion.
Let's be clear. The devil is in the Oval Office. He is not up at VH1.
Okay, Toure. Okay, wait. Toure, wait a minute. With Spud, wait. Let's put a pause on this podcast. Because I was going to say, Toure, I'm glad that you didn't have that, or you had a wonderful experience at MSNBC that you talked about. But I was going to say, we need to get on 95. Let's go south. Let's go to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because that white man's ice is much, much colder than probably the other 44 presidents that we've had in this particular country, especially Barack Obama. Because if this man is on tape who says he loves grabbing women by the private parts, he's on record of paying another woman $140,000 of having an extramarital affair. And if Maynard, help me out, the number he's up to is 16 or 18 or 19 women have said that he has sexually assaulted them over the past 15 to 20 years. Am I right, Maynard?
This is
the right
number.
The last
He's
one
got
was
high
17.
He got high
Okay.
testosterone.
70. Okay, right. So my thing is, he's winning because he seems to dodge all of these things. And is he the devil? I don't know, but he seems like he is like the guy who is, he's the man in certain
Toure, can
people's
that be a
eyes.
two-part question? Can you go back to why Mona Scott
Was
is
there-
not the devil?
was there-
I'm trying to pivot off of Mona, Spud.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
know
see
you
where
are.
I'm going?
I know you are.
I mean-
I see where you went.
I like
What is the question? How is Trump able to get away with being this maniac? Is that
Yes,
the question?
absolutely. Because I say on the podcast that he's winning towards his base, although he may have a very low
No,
30%.
He's not winning.
No, I'm gonna tell you
Yeah,
why
no,
he
he's
is.
not.
Wait, hold on, Lamont. You asked a question. We have a guest. Let him speak. Shit.
Thank you.
He's not winning unless his base is the sole audience. They are not. They are
Exactly.
a fraction of the audience. He's not winning. His approval rating is in the toilet. He's not winning, and he's not winning in 2018 or 2020 either. But what's happened is that we have two media universes, and nary the twain shall meet. And if you're on the left or in the sort of more objective center, you are being told the truth by your media sources. And if you're on the right, depending on how far you are to the right, you're being completely lied to by your media sources. But
Completely.
unlike the left and the mainstream, the right media sources are telling you you can't trust them. You can't trust the New York Times. You can't trust the Washington Post. You can't trust NBC. You can't trust MSNBC. So they're building a cocoon to where you only can trust Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, folks to the right of that. So, and they're not telling you the truth. And I'm not saying this from some, politicized point of view. On the right, they are not getting the truth. So, of course, they're not able to make informed decisions that would help the actual country. So, so they add it up and they make this horrific decision. A person who is exactly who we thought he was, is completely incompetent, completely in over his head. It's not even that I necessarily disagree with all of his ideas. He has too few ideas and too little understanding of the job and the government and the country to actually even be in the conversation. I disagree with Mike Pence's ideas. Donald Trump doesn't have a full complement of ideas. So, we are in a national emergency because we have Fox News and others lying to their audience. The reason why France didn't have this is because they don't have Fox News.
So let's try to pivot a little bit as we discuss the media universes, if you will, and talk a little bit about your, how you stretched in your new universe, the Toure show. What was the impetus, and tell us a little bit about, tell the audience a little bit about your how you do this, why you do this.
Yeah, man, I'm doing a podcast called Toure Show where I'm doing hour-long, one-on-one, in-depth interviews with successful Black people, like just really cool people who we can learn from. And we've had Maxwell, Puffy, RZA, Kendrick Lamar, Black Thought, Kehinde Wiley. This week is Zadie Smith. The week after Zadie Smith, on Valentine's Day, we're coming out with a long interview with Prince's first fiance, talking about meeting him, dating him, watching him rise, him proposing to her, not getting married. It's fucking ill. I can't wait for that one. But, I just wanted to talk about success and how it is attained and how it is maintained, and what are the tactics and the attitudes and the strategies that people are using to get to success.
So, is Kendrick Lamar the greatest of his era?
Yeah. It's not really that close. Not with that. I mean, like I would love to. I love Jay Electronica, and I give him lots of credit, but I can't put him above Kendrick for the amount of music that he's had versus the amount of incredible music that Kendrick has had. But I don't really, outside of the two of them, I'm not really sure who is in that conversation this generation.
No Drake?
Is that a joke?
I just was asking.
Spud, I cannot wait till we get to the segment. I just cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm just curious about Drake. I'm curious about J. Cole.
Was that a joke?
No, I thought
J. Cole's a serious MC. Drake's not a serious MC. I think, and no shots. He's not a serious MC. That's not what he's trying to do. So I don't think he belongs to that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a diss. Like, that's not what he's trying to do. You know. So it'd be like it'd be like saying Biz Marquis is a bad singer. Like, he's not trying to be a singer. So that's not a diss. Like, and I don't hate Drake like a lot of men of my era or my age do. He's caught me 3-4 times that I'm like, I like that song. I can't front. I like that song. I'm like, he's a pop star. He make 100 songs. He's gonna catch you 3-4 times. I mean, and some of why we like music is socially constructed. I went to a party at freaking Zadie Smith's house, and she was like, "Yeah, I really like that Drake song," and I hit that. It was a Hotline Bling, and I was hating Hotline Bling. And just we don't, if you 40 something and you know no hip hop, you ain't fucking Drake. And I was like, I ain't fucking with that song. But the way she said, she's like, no, it's so great, and her voice and her accent and shit is very. And I'm like, all right, I'll listen to it again because I really, really, really respect you. And I listened to it again. I'm like, yeah, that shit is mad catchy. All right, whatever. And then for some reason, I played it again and again. And then my daughter caught onto it, and she was like, I really like that. And she was like 6. So then we started playing it together, and now it's like our thing. So now I got somebody to rock to the song with. And then, of course, my wife and my son then started to hate it because we played it a bunch of times. So now it's really a us versus them thing. And it's like, this is our record, and we put it on, and y'all get screw faces, or we're like, we still like it. So then, that it became about that. But I mean, that shit and One Dance, and I kind of like that God's Plan. He had a freestyle before he came out that had no hooks. It was just rhyme, and he did Sylvia Rowan in the rhyme, and I was like, yo, that shit is hot. And then he came out, and he was a little different. I don't know.
He's a
he
pop
gets
star
me
now.
sometimes.
Let me ask you this in regards to your book, Who's Afraid of Blackness? And I know it came out in like 2011, but is that book still relevant today? Will that book always be relevant? And can you break down post-racial and post-black? I did.
Well, is it relevant today? I mean, I would think that following, the rise of the awareness of mass incarceration with Michelle Alexander, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the sort of national emergency that we have with Trump and the war against Black and brown people. I would concede that, some of the more identity stuff that I was talking about is not the central conversation at this point. I was talking during an Obama era where the perception of Blackness was different. And right now, we're at war. It's different than let's check in with our spirit and see, where our spirit is. Right. And, what I was talking about with post-Blackness, which is an idea that came from the art world, I was talking about seeing Blackness, terms of infinite complexity, that any perception of Blackness, any performance of Blackness, any embodiment of Blackness is valid. And then there's no, you're not Black enough. It's totally different than post-racial. It has nothing to do with post-racial, which is a bankrupt idea that no serious Black person I know bought into, the idea that race does not exist or racism or race doesn't matter anymore. That's ridiculous. And I think we all understood that always. But can we embody or inhabit or perform Blackness with infinite complexity, whereas everybody's performance of Blackness is valid and important? And that is tricky for some people, because there's a sense of this is what it is to be Black, and you ain't that Black. And I wanted to break down that barrier. Today in 2018, that conversation is less important. And if I was writing a book about Blackness now, I would not write that book.
You said that Tyler Perry's films are like cinematic malt liquor.
So let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened after I said that.
He checked you. Tyler Perry checked you. Tyler Perry came up. He pulled up.
Let me tell you what happened.
Oh,
let me tell you what happened.
This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
So yeah, I said that because the fool I was on CNN debating with was trying to make a positive point about Tyler Perry. Artistically, the man's movies are trash. You know what I mean? And the only thing artistically that he does well is marketing. And the brother was trying to make it out like, he employs Black people. I mean, the cinematic malt liquor thing was like, the movies are bad for us. They may taste good, but they're not really good for you. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, at least he hires Black people. I'm like, drug dealers hire Black people. Does that absolve them? What are we talking about here?
Good point.
So a day after, because my book was coming out then, so I was doing a book tour. I'm going through the San Francisco airport at the TSA, and the phone rings 404. That's the CNN Atlanta area code. So I'm thinking CNN wants to have me back. And the person on the other end says it's Tyler Perry. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Did you hang up on him?
And did he call right back?
I may have hung up on him thinking it was a radio prank, but I think I started to hang up on him, and he said something else that I was like, okay, if you're not Tyler Perry, your imitation is insanely good. And he said something else, and I'm like, yo, that really, really sounds like his voice. And I was like, and it's going through the TSA. I'm like, yo, let me call you back in 60 seconds because I'm about to go through the scanner. So I call him back. It really was him. And we had a productive conversation for about 10 minutes. And I was going at him with all my criticisms of his movie making and his aesthetics and this and that. And he was very game. And he was taking it and, responding and hearing me out. And what he was doing was very smart. Because he was like, we are both going to be in this, not at the same level, but we're both going to be in this for a while. And I want you to know me. And when he was an abstraction, it was easy to go on TV and be like, his movies are cinematic malt liquor. When I know dude, and he texts me every once in a while, it is much harder to go out there and throw bombs at dude. And he, he was very smart with sort of just creating a friendship. It was a very Christian thing to do. Like, you attack me artistically, but still, it was very turn the other cheek.
He disarmed you.
It was very, very disarming. It was genuine. Like, I hear you out, all your critiques, and I'll respond to them. And, we text every once in a while. He invited me to come see his play. A year or two ago, I saw one of his plays in Brooklyn. It was a bit of a mess, but not entirely his fault, because he told me that right before the play, there were two older female characters, right? Him and this woman. And right before the play, she got sick and couldn't go out. So he had to rewrite the play in the hour before they went out. And even then, there were times when he's in character and saying to the other characters, go off stage, I'm sick of hearing from you. And the characters look at him like, what do you want me to do, Tyler? And they're like, go off stage. This is a fucking mess. But then occasionally he would bring in some, religious metaphors and analogies that were kind of brilliant and shit. And, I understand his value for his audience. I am not in his audience. But, one of the things he talked about was the critical thing that I want him to reach for, that I deal with Spike Lee and Tarantino and Scorsese and all that. He's not in that game. He gets people coming up to him saying, I was about to commit suicide and I watched your movie. I was obese and I watched your movie. I was at the edge of my rope with depression or this or that, and I watched your movie and it changed me. So he, the money aside, he's getting his love and his fulfillment on a very deep level. So he does not care about our critical, engagement with his films. So,
So are you going to have him on the show, on the podcast? Will you have him on the podcast? Will he come on?
I would love.
Because I think it's a great conversation to be able to have, one, to talk about Hollywood.
Oh, I agree.
To talk about, just the way that, like you said, the movies are, depending on which ones, let's just say the Madea movies are pretty trash. We already know what's coming. We know the narrative, so forth and so on. And I was just really disheartened when his Boo movie came out. What was that, year before last? Up against Birth of a Nation, and Birth of a Nation lost. And he won in the box office. Okay, rightfully so. It is what it is. More people want to be entertained than they want to be educated, which is unfortunate. But there's no balance in Hollywood, and I think that there's an unfortunate narrative in Hollywood that these are the type of movies that black folks want to see, and they don't provide any diversity. So I would love to, I would love to hear that podcast. I think that'd be
good. I would too.
So and then finally, I'm sorry, man, I know you got one question, but finally, I heard you on the Breakfast Club, and you went and you were a bit emotional, and I get it. In your opinion now, where do we stand with Russell? We all kind of, we all got radio and music backgrounds. And, we all know Russell Simmons personally and professionally. So we all kind of know how Russell Simmons has been, but after the allegations and so forth and so on, what should our respect level be for Russell at this point?
Look, as black people, have we been screwed by the jury system? Have we seen the jury system make significant mistakes, especially when it comes to our people?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Daily.
So we cannot.
Daily.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It's things that we know about, national stories, and all in our personal lives, right? So it would be foolish to say, I reserve judgment on X until a jury tells me what to think. We don't do that. We should not do that as black people. That would be ridiculous. Our history would contradict that would even make sense. So, which that was the point that Charlemagne was trying to make of like, wait for the jury to speak. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I can't have 6, 7, 8 women say, this horrific thing and have copious details and then just go, well, I'm just going to wait until, that doesn't make sense. And, one of them I know very well. I know personally for a very long time. And I can't turn my back on her and say that I don't know her super well. And I don't know that she's a super honest person. And I don't know that if she said this, I'm sure that it's true. So how do we, the man, the man has been, doing sort of evil things for a long time, and I don't know how we are supposed to just, turn away from that. I know the guy, he was at my wedding and, I can't, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to turn my back on all these women and pretend they all don't exist? Look, how can you, and like, just the point of his legacy, what else do we talk about? What the guy was accused of rape by many, many, many people. And the shit that he did in the office with Drew, the sexual harassment, he concedes that. So you concede that you pulled out your dick in the office and locked her door behind her and whatevered her with your open penis in the office during the workday, but it's absurd that you raped her? What story makes more sense then? He raped me, nothing happened. Okay, well, what other information do the two of you agree on? Well, the two of you agree on that he pulled his penis out in front of her in the office many, many, many times. And he paid her for having done that. Right. So then what story seems more realistic? Nothing happened or he raped me? I don't know how, and I don't know how we're supposed to just go back to like, whatever, it's just funny rush. Like, no. Like, a lot of people's lives have been wrecked.
The questions I have next don't even seem appropriate anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit. But so what I wanted to ask is, about the community, about the culture and the relocation of the Renaissance. How is it to be in Fort Greene, where you walk out to, Spike is, made us abundantly aware that Brooklyn is the greatest place on the face of the planet.
And Biggie.
Right. Or, but it seems as if when you can walk out your door and run into Nelson or run into Zadie or whoever, and that neighborhood or that community, I was watching the documentary about Nina Simone, and for it was so romantic that she was talking about, James Baldwin was by the other day, and and Malcolm X and his family lives next door, and or Lorraine Hansberry, is a good friend of mine. And is that what it's like to be in Fort Greene right now?
Yeah. Zadie does not live in this community. She lives in Manhattan. But, Danzy Senna has lived here. Colson Whitehead has lived in Fort Greene. So, there's definitely that sense of, like, there's a real vibrant artistic community with, writers and stand-ups and filmmakers and poets and, actors and rappers and like all sorts of people. And, some of them are white, Sometimes you're up at the bookstore and there's Paul Giamatti standing next to you or what have you, or, some other folks. Erica Badu has lived in this community, not recently, but she used to be around here. It used to be you might run into Talib or Mos walking around here. It feels very much like, an idealized community where there's all sorts of fun, funky, smart, artistic people around. And it's definitely inspiring. It's definitely inspiring. You definitely feel like, you're not alone. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other, because being an artist can be very lonely because a lot of the time you're alone working on your art. And, when you move around your community and you run into, Jhumpa Lahiri, or Amanda Stern, a writer who you guys may not have heard of, but I've known her for 20 years. Or, like I said, Colson Whitehead, or, some filmmaker who you haven't heard of yet, but I've known them for a long time. That it's thrilling and it's replenishing just to see other folks around. Increasingly the podcast community is around. It's great. And, part of what I love about Fort Greene is it's a very outdoor community. There's a big park, there's a lot of outdoor restaurants. So, there's more of an intense community than a lot of New York neighborhoods. There's a lot of people in Fort Greene who I know because I've been saying hi to them for 20 years, but I don't know exactly where they live. I may have forgotten their name at some point, but I've seen their kids grow up and they've seen my kids grow up, and I'm like, yo, your kid's so cute. And they're like, your kid's so cute. And we keep it moving. And we're neighbors, even though, I don't know you, but I do know you. And I love that. And I feel very connected to my community. Like I really know a lot of these people.
Well, Toure, this is a part of the podcast that, even though you've kind of given it to us, I think a little bit already, we ask everyone, whether you're, a part of the hip hop culture, whether you're a civil rights advocate, what would I call it?
Just
activist.
Keep moving.
No, come on, Maynard. This is, let me set this up right.
Yo, Toure, he's hooked on phonics, my dude. Just be patient with him.
Yeah, because Maynard, wait a minute, the other word that you used earlier, we got to talk about that when we get done with the podcast, because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it in the Webster's, but we'll get back to that later. But Toure, we need your top five. Your top five MCs.
Top five MCs?
All time.
Top five.
All time, baby.
Wait, Maynard, hold up. It doesn't have to be all time. It could just be his top five.
It's all time. It's all
What do you mean?
It's got to be all time.
Can y'all let him?
I'm going with the new traditional non-ranked top five because it's too freaking hard.
Well, hold on.
Rank the top five.
You don't have to rank them.
I mean, Jay-Z is definitely in the top five. Nas is definitely in the top five. Big, definitely. Kendrick, Andre. And I mean, there's probably two or three that I want to put in the top five also to make it 8. I'm not even totally sure who I'm forgetting.
You didn't mention Chris?
No shots against Chris, but he would be definitely in the bottom half of the top 10 rather than top half of the top 10.
Toure, we need a substitution. We need to get the ref in here. Can we get a red flag on the play, man? We need to review that top 5.
We feel like Andre is probably gotta be removed.
Oh wow, y'all are bugging.
Andre 3000 is dope though.
Y'all are bugging.
Andre 3000 is dope.
Y'all are bugging.
For Chris?
Andre 3000 is the top of a lot of lists. He's the top of a lot of lists. A lot of MCs have put him in their top 5. A lot. And there's a fucking complexity and an intelligence to his fucking rhymes and his style and his voice and his flow.
You would M doesn't make your top 5?
I mean, no shots. He would probably. Maybe.
Yo, his disses are so dope.
It's tight. I mean, if he's 6, it's a tight 6.
Yo,
just because that top 5 is tight. I mean, how can you fuck with Kendrick, Jay, Nas, Big, Andre? I mean, like, all those are incredible careers. You know, I mean, you can't fuck with any of those careers.
But look, but think about this. You really give me the Andre 3000 solo album that is bigger than anything that Eminem has had.
Ooh.
What do you mean bigger? You mean like commercially?
It doesn't have to be commercially.
Commercial doesn't matter.
It don't have to be commercial. Just, I mean, critically, where is the Andre 3000? For me, I really can't. I have a hard time.
I mean, I would not penalize Andre for being in a duo. He was an incredibly important and dope part of that.
The Love Below is a dope album.
Yes, it's dope, but I mean, so that's the same.
One of the best-selling hip hop albums of all time. It actually is the best-selling hip hop album of all time.
Has Eminem had one of the best-selling hip hop albums and been dope at the same time, multiple times?
Well, no, because Outkast has the best-selling hip hop album of all time. Because you have to count them as they are 2 separate albums that you are forced to buy together. So whatever number they have is double. The actual number is double. They have the number 1 album of all time. Eminem never had the number 1 selling hip hop album of all time. But that's not important. Eminem is dope as shit. I mean, I have no problem with Andre in my top 5. I'm super proud of that. I have no problem.
Badge of honor is Andre 3000. Oh, goodness gracious.
Andre's dope. Toure, thank you so very much, man. I know we kept you a little longer than what we asked. When are we gonna see you back on TV? Is the question. We gonna get the Toure show on TV? Are we gonna, we mend our relationship with BET? Are we going to the Vice channel?
The answer is I don't know. That's the best I can do right now.
Well,
that's good.
You will come back.
Television chooses you.
You will come back and see us again, though, right?
Yeah, no doubt. This is fun.
Yo, father, husband, author, podcaster, activist, hip hop, pop culture journalist, Toure, we want to thank you so much, my dude.
All right, thank you. All right, peace.